My name is Nathan Slobodkin. I'm a violin maker and have a violin shop in Bangor, Maine. And this video is to teach you how to pack a violin for shipment. There are certain materials that you need to use, and I recommend that you pay attention to the exact materials that I'm mentioning, as there are some materials that can be very damaging to the varnish of the instrument or not suitable for other reasons. This is known as parchment paper or non-stick paper liner of the type that's used in bakeries to keep baked goods from sticking in the box. Very important that this be the correct paper and not a substitute. This kind of paper here is simply packing tissue. There's a variety of kinds. These are usually available from packing stores. This kind of non-stick liner is usually available from cooking goods or gourmet stores. The other materials that you will need are either bubble wrap, or I prefer the styrofoam or cellulose peanuts, which are used to pack inside boxes. And of course, you'll need a good quality cardboard box. These are available from all kinds of moving supply stores or UPS stores, and they're usually available in different sizes. It is very important that you get the correct size and have the correct clearance between the case that the instrument is contained in and the outer packing box. We're going to go and describe how the instrument is packed into the case, and then we'll come back in here to the packing room and I'll show you how to pack the case itself into the box. So what we're going to bring in there is the non-stick paper and a supply of the packing tissue. So we're going to take a few sheets of this and our non-stick liner. Now that we have our materials here, we're going to start with some information about the case. This is a suspension case where the back of the instrument does not touch the outer side of the case. It's very important that it be a suspension case that you're packing in. It's possible to use a regular case, but if you have a choice, always use suspension case. It's really quite important. The instrument is going to go into the case using our protective non-stick paper to keep any contact from the case and the varnish to a minimum, because sometimes, especially newer instruments and sometimes even very old ones, are very susceptible to pressure and heat, and we don't want the varnish to be damaged by the contact with the case. So the non-stick paper will help with that. So we're going to pull out a section of paper that is large enough to cover the case in here, and we're going to put the instrument in the case, and making sure that it fits firmly but not tightly. We're going to put the instrument into the case, and we're going to secure the Velcro strap that holds the neck down. You'll notice that the paper is coming out on all sides of the instrument, so the back of the instrument is protected from the contact of the case. The next step is that we are going to take our regular tissue paper, and this doesn't have to be cut particularly carefully. It can be torn to size, just roughly to size. And we're going to make the protective blocking that will go inside the case to help support the bridge and to keep the tailpiece from damaging the instrument if in fact the strings should come down while the instrument is in transit. So we're going to roll up just a tube of the paper and flatten it like this. That gets inserted under the tailpiece so that if the strings should come loose, the tailpiece will not be able to scratch the instrument. And you want it all the way from end to end, but no more than the width of the case, because you don't want to have extra pressure on anything. You don't want wads of paper that will press on the instrument. So just a tube just long enough to flatten out and slide under the tailpiece. The next piece we're going to make, again, just roughly cutting or tearing the paper to size. And this one is going to go under the fingerboard, and it has to be thick enough so that it will stay under the fingerboard and have a little bit of pressure. And then folding it up like this so that it presses against the bridge. And the purpose here is so if the strings should come loose, which they may because of change in humidity in the truck or in the airplane, you don't want the bridge to fall over. So we want to have a support in front of the bridge, and then we want another piece that is folded up and fits between the tailpiece and the bridge. And again, this has just enough pressure to provide a little bit of support so that the bridge will not fall over if the strings should come down. At this point, we can fold our protective paper, and note again that this is not our regular tissue paper. This is the non-stick paper from the bakery aisle of your supermarket. That gets folded down neatly so that you can cover the instrument with the blanket that goes with the case. And just put it in here. And again, we do not want to have so much paper or packing material that we add any extra pressure. The case itself should always have a bit of a space on the top and the back, and that's why we use the suspension case. Before you close the case, a business card or some kind of piece of paper with the address of both the shipper and the receiver should be put inside the case so that if the packing is for some reason damaged and the case escapes from the packing, there will still be an identification that the shipper can find out where it's supposed to go and who it's coming from, and you will not lose the instrument in that way. At that point, close the case. Be sure that as you close it, you feel very carefully that there's no pressure, that you're not having to force anything, that the case just closes in a normal manner. And then zip it carefully. The final step after the case is closed is to take either a business card or a paper label with the contact information for the sender or the recipient or both, and tape it to the outside of the case so that if the case is separated from the box through some mishap, the shipper still has a way to contact somebody and figure out where this instrument is supposed to be going. The next step is to measure the case. You need to know what size this case is because we need to make an outer box for it. This case is 31 inches long, it's 10 inches wide, and it is 6 inches in depth. We want to make a box that is at least 3 inches larger on every side. That means for a 31-inch case, we have to have a box that is at least 36 inches long. And so we have here a box. This is a commercial box that is available through cardboard suppliers or moving companies. This box is 36 inches long, it's 18 inches wide, and it's 12 inches deep. And this is the size that is appropriate for these cases, because with a 6-inch depth, we want to have 3 inches on the top and 3 inches on the bottom. So that's 12 inches. We want to have 10 inches wide. We want to have at least 16 inches width, so that we have 3 inches on either side. In this case, we have a little extra. And we have 36 inches long, which gives us 2.5 inches on either end. And in that case, we're going to call that good enough because they don't make 37 inches boxes. So we'll say 2.5 inches is okay. We want to make up this box using regular packing tape. A packing tape gun is something that will make this much easier. And you just make up the box just in the normal way. This comes flat. We simply open it up put the ends down first. We put the long sides together and then tape across at least 3 places across the box. And then we seal the center seam. Has to be covered totally from end to end and down the sides. Now we can flip this over and we're ready to pack the case inside the box. The first thing that we're going to do once we have our box assembled, we're going to put packing material into a depth of 3 inches before the case is put into the box. So I'm going to pour the packing peanuts in. Pour the packing peanuts in and spread them out to a depth of 3 inches. I'm going to set it in the box and settle it in and make sure that you now have 3 inches on top of the box, which is going to be filled with packing peanuts later. Adjust this case so that it's equidistant from all sides and has a depth underneath it of 3 inches and an empty space of 3 inches on top. Now that that's done, we can fill the box completely with packing peanuts. Checking to make sure that while it's filled completely, it's not overfilled so that you cannot close the box. We want to get it exactly the right amount so that there will be no space whatsoever inside. The packing peanuts should be compressed very slightly to close the box. So measure this out carefully until you have the correct amount of peanuts inside. Tamp the packing material down, and you have the correct amount when you can just barely close all of the flaps. You notice that there's a slight bulge here, but as I push it down, I can flatten this out, and there's no extra space inside. We don't want the case to be able to move at all once the packing material is put in. At that point, use your tape again to close the box with at least 3 crosswise tapes. And 1 the full length of the center seam. And down the sides enough to hold it. It's best at this point to seal the ends with another piece of tape that holds that down, just to be sure that that will not come open, even if the instrument is abused in handling, even if it is dropped. We don't want that tape to come off, and I would suggest checking the bottom again and again sealing those ends right up so that they cannot come loose. We're now ready to attach the shipping label. This can be either a printed label that you do on your computer, or it can be handwritten. It needs to have the name of the sender, the name of the recipient, and just in case this should come off of the box, it's a good idea to put on the box itself, written right on the box, that information. So I'm going to put Slobodkin Violins, with a phone number, And I'm going to put that on the box itself, written right on the box, and I'm going to cover that with the shipping label. This means that if that shipping label should somehow come off, the carrier still has a way to locate me and to call me and let me know that there's a problem with the shipment. Once we've got that label prepared, we cover it completely with the packing tape so that it cannot be erased or damaged in any way. Should it get wet, it's still not going to fade out or blur. Cover this completely with tape to make sure that that is completely readable and will not fall off the box. The last thing we do is use caution stickers, and we're going to put these on here to make sure that the carrier knows that these are fragile instruments inside. Now we want to make sure that we put our shipping label and our fragile stickers on the top of the box. Remember, when we put the box in, we had the case in a certain way so that the bridge of the instrument is up. We make sure we did that when we put the case in, and so that we have it so that if we were to open this box and then take out the peanuts and open the case, it would be being opened in the normal way so that the violin would be correct side up. We want to make sure that that shipping label is on the top side, because that is how it will go into a truck or onto a conveyor belt. We always want to have it right side up if we can. So put the stickers on that will read in the correct direction. So as it sits with the top up, you can see the fragile stickers from all sides. We don't need to put one on the bottom because that will just confuse the carrier. But we want to make sure that from every side that it can be seen, there is a fragile sticker that is put on. Or if we don't have the stickers themselves, we can simply write fragile on the box with red magic marker, and that will do just as well. Big fragile sign so that the carrier knows that he's dealing with something that is delicate. At that point, the instrument can be shipped. Once the box is completely sealed and ready to go, the next step is to decide how the instrument is going to be shipped, who the carrier is going to be. There's a number of options on this, depending on how far the instrument has to go, whether it's international and so forth. The best bet on this is to go with a recognized carrier such as FedEx, UPS, or the U.S. Postal Service, and they offer a variety of services including next day air, second day air, 3-day air, or ground service. You want to choose an appropriate carrier and an appropriate type of shipping for the individual case. If you're shipping an instrument from, say, Massachusetts to Southern California in the middle of the summer, you probably don't want to ship it ground, because then it would be spending a week in a truck in very hot weather, sometimes in the Midwest and desert states, and there's a good chance that the instrument could be damaged by heat. So in that kind of case, I would definitely suggest that you use second day air or economy air of some sort. If there's a shipment that is only going a short distance and it can be delivered by ground in 1 day or 2 days, then ground is perfectly okay. Again, you want to keep in mind the exact circumstances of weather and where it is going, and make sure that you are aware of how it's going to be treated. The final thing that you need to take care of is insurance. However you ship it, ground, second day air, overnight air, you must insure the instrument for full value. And you should contact the owner if you are not the owner and find out how much the value is. Or if you are the owner, consult your own insurance papers to find out how much is covered. And if you are the owner, you need to talk to your own insurance company and make sure that your insurance will cover it in transit. Explain exactly what the situation is. Give them options. Some insurance carriers would much prefer that you send by air rather than by ground. tell them what the circumstances are and let them tell you what they will cover and what they will not. And then insure the instrument for full value. And the last step is to double check everything on the shipper's label and the shipper's information to make sure that they are doing what you wish and that you have the proper insurance and so forth. Double check that if you're expecting it to go by air, that it is indeed going by air. Double check the addresses. Make sure that there are no accidents on the way. If you follow these directions carefully, then your instrument should arrive in good condition.